The old man sat on a worn plasteel bench in the dim Hablock common room. The bench had been there for 40 years, longer than most of the people in the room had been alive. The paint had worn off in patches, showing the gray metal underneath. Someone had carved numbers into the armrest. Shift designations, probably. Or maybe just counting days. Around him, 16 people had gathered. Workers from 3 different shifts, their coveralls stained with oil and chemical residue. 2 servitor technicians in the red-trimmed robes of the Mechanicus junior priesthood. A widow whose husband had disappeared into the system 6 months ago. A Munitorum clerk with ink-stained fingers and tired eyes. 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, the youngest maybe 7, the oldest 12. And a man missing his left arm from the elbow down, the stump wrapped in clean bandages that looked new. Outside, the factorum lights burned through the smog. Always burning. Always running. The hum of machinery was constant, a vibration you felt in your bones even when you couldn't hear it. Shift change had happened 2 hours ago. The corridors were quieter now, but never silent. He took a slow breath and began. Most people, he said, think the Imperium values loyalty, faith, obedience, service to the Emperor. And it does. But there's something it values more. He paused, looking at each face. Your body. No one spoke. Not you. Not your thoughts, your dreams, your soul, your faith. Your body. The meat. The bone. The muscle. The brain tissue. The nervous system. That's what the Imperium actually needs. That's what keeps it running. That's what it will take from you, one way or another. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Let me explain. Building a machine is expensive, the old man said. You need raw materials. Iron ore. Plasteel. Ceramics. Rare earth elements for certain components. You need to mine those materials, refine them, transport them to forge worlds or manufacturums. Each step takes time. Each step requires labor, energy, oversight. He held up one finger. Then you need the actual production. Forges running at temperatures that can melt metal. Stamping presses. Assembly lines. Tech priests to bless every component, to perform the rituals of awakening, to sanctify the machine spirit. On a proper forge world, it can take 6 months to produce a single cargo loader automaton. 6 months. And that's for something simple. He held up a second finger. And even then machines break. They need maintenance. Constant maintenance. You need to replace parts that wear out. Recalibrate systems. Resanctify components when they're swapped. The Mechanicus hoards its knowledge. Most worlds can't build complex machinery. They can barely maintain what they have. I've seen factorums shut down for weeks because a single servo arm failed and no one on the planet knew how to fix it. A third finger. Thinking machines are forbidden. Abominable intelligence. The worst heresy. So you can't just program a machine to think for itself, to make decisions, to adapt. You need human oversight, human operators, humans to make judgments, even small ones. A cargo loader can move a crate from point A to point B, but only if a human tells it which crate, when to move it, where exactly point B is. It can't improvise, can't prioritize, can't think. He lowered his hand. So the Imperium has a choice. Spend decades and massive resources building machines that might break, that need constant maintenance, that can't think for themselves, that require tech priests just to keep functioning, or use what's already available. What's abundant? What's cheap? He spread his hands. People. The room was quiet except for the distant hum of the factorums. But people break too, one of the workers said. An older man, 50 maybe, with a limp. Yes, the old man agreed. People break. People get sick. People get old. People die. But people also reproduce. Constantly. Billions of new people every year across the Imperium. And when a person breaks, you don't throw them away. You convert them. One of the children, a girl maybe 10 years old with her hair tied back in a regulation work braid, raised her hand timidly. But people die, she said quietly. Don't they run out? The old man shook his head slowly. There are quadrillions of people in the Imperium. Quadrillions. Numbers so large they stop meaning anything. On Hive worlds, the population is measured in tens of billions per planet, sometimes hundreds of billions. People live in stacks 100 levels deep, 1,000 levels deep. They're born in corridors they'll never leave. They die in those same corridors. There are entire cities, millions of people, that exist in the spaces between the official levels. Under hives so vast they have their own weather patterns. He gestured to the walls around them, to the Hablock, to the world beyond. This world, Vorsoc Tertius, has 8 billion people. 8 billion. Most of them work in factorums. But some can't work. Some are too sick, too injured, too old. Some commit crimes. Some are born wrong, genetic defects, mutation, cognitive impairment. Some just aren't needed. Every year, more people are born than the Imperium has jobs for. He let that hang in the air. The Imperium doesn't kill them. That would be wasteful. It converts them into servitors, one of the technicians said. His voice was flat, stating a fact. Yes. The old man nodded. Into servitors. Into tools. Into components of the great machine that is the Imperium. Nothing wasted. No one thrown away. Every body has value. The old man stood and walked to the center of the room. His knees cracked. He was older than he looked, 73 standard years. Head worked in the administratum for 50 of them. A servitor costs almost nothing to make, he said. Compared to a machine, I mean. You take a human body, criminal, sick, injured, unwanted, surplus. You bring it to a conversion facility. The procedure takes 4 to 6 hours, depending on the complexity. The components needed are cheap, because most of them are standardized. Neural plugs, command receptors, basic augmetics, replacement limbs, servo arms, welding tools, whatever the servitor's function requires. Most of it is recycled from previous servitors. He counted on his fingers. No forge time waiting for production. No rare materials needed. No tech priest delays while they consult ancient blueprints. Just a body, a conversion table, and a few standard tools. The Mechanicus has done this procedure so many times they can run 3 conversions simultaneously in a single chamber. I've seen it. 3 tables, 3 bodies, 3 tech priests working in parallel. Efficient. And afterward? The Munitorum clerk asked. He was taking notes on a data slate, a habit he couldn't break even off duty. Afterward, you have a worker that doesn't need food, doesn't need sleep, doesn't complain, doesn't get tired, doesn't ask for payment, doesn't demand better conditions. You give it a task, and it does that task until it physically cannot continue. Until it breaks. He sat back down, the bench creaking under his weight. Compare that to a human worker. A human needs 4 liters of water a day, more if they work in hot environments. They need rations, protein, carbohydrates, vitamins. They need rest shifts. You can't work a human 20 hours a day for years without killing them. They need medical care when they get sick or injured. They slow down as they age. They make mistakes. They get distracted. They have families, problems, emotions. He looked around the room. A servitor has none of that. A servitor needs basic maintenance. Oil the joints, replace worn components, run diagnostics once a month. Feed it electricity instead of food. No days off. No complaints. No inefficiency. But servitors break too, the technician said. I've seen them fail. Neural receptors burn out. Augmetics malfunction. Bodies give out. Yes, the old man agreed. But when they break, you harvest the augmetics. Most of them are reusable, and you convert someone else. There's always someone else. The cycle continues. And it's still cheaper, still faster, than building a machine from scratch. He pulled out his data slate. I ran the numbers once. Out of curiosity. A Class 4 labor servitor. That's the standard cargo loader. The kind you see everywhere. Costs approximately 340 thrones to produce. That includes the procedure, the augmetics, the initial calibration. A comparable cargo loader automaton costs 89,000 thrones and takes 6 months to manufacture. Someone whistled low. The servitor might last 10 years. The automaton might last 30. But you can make 260 servitors for the price of 1 automaton. Even if each servitor only lasts 5 years, you're still ahead. And that's not counting maintenance costs. The automaton needs tech priest oversight, specialized parts, ritual maintenance. The servitor just needs oil and a tech adept to check its neural receptors twice a year. He put the slate away. From an efficiency standpoint, there's no comparison. Servitors are cheaper, faster to produce, easier to maintain, and there's an unlimited supply of raw material. He paused. That raw material is us. The old man pulled out his data slate again. It was old, scratched, the screen flickering slightly at the edges. But it worked. Everything in the Imperium worked just well enough. I pulled some numbers, he said. These are from 3 years ago. Official administratum records. Public data, technically, though nobody ever looks at it. He scrolled through screens of dense text and figures. Vorsoc Tertius. Annual servitor conversions, 47,000. That's just this world. Just one medium-tier forge world. Across the entire segmentum solar, the number is 4.3 billion per year. That's new conversions, not counting servitors already in service, not counting servitors shipped in from other segmentums. Someone in the back made a choking sound. The Imperial Navy alone uses 900 million servitors across its fleets. Gun loaders, maintenance servitors crawling through spaces too small or too dangerous for human crew. Corridor watchers standing at every bulkhead door. Waste reclamation units processing the biological output of millions of sailors. Cogitator interface servitors hardwired into data stations. All servitors, all converted from people. He scrolled further. Forge worlds? 12 billion servitors in active service across all Mechanicus holdings. Some Forge worlds have more servitors than human workers. Mars itself, the red planet, holiest of all Forge worlds, has an estimated 6 billion servitors. 6 billion people who used to be people. The widow spoke up, her voice tight. How do you know they were people? Maybe some were grown that way. Vat grown for the purpose? The old man shook his head gently. Vat growing is expensive. Slow. Requires resources most worlds don't have. It's cheaper to use what's already available. The Mechanicus does grow some specialized servitors, vat-born, never truly human. But those are rare. Most servitors are converted. The records confirm it. Intake processing, identity records, conversion authorization forms. Every servitor was someone. He continued reading. Mining operations across the Imperium, 6 billion servitors. They work in conditions that kill normal humans in weeks. Toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, radiation zones. A servitor with basic rad shielding can work in a plutonium mine for years. A human would die in days. Agri-worlds? He continued. 2 billion servitors. Harvesting, processing, loading. The ecclesiarchy, 800 million servitors in temples, shrines, and pilgrimage sites. Cleaning, maintenance, carrying relics. Some of them are former penitents, people who volunteered for servitorization as an act of faith. Most were criminals convicted of offenses against the church. He looked up from the slate. Add it all up, and the Imperium has somewhere between 40 and 50 billion servitors in active service at any given time. That's a conservative estimate. The real number could be higher. The administratum's records are incomplete. Some worlds don't report accurately. Some servitors aren't recorded at all. He put the slate down. 50 billion. That's 50 billion people who were converted. 50 billion people who used to have names, families, lives. And every year, billions more join them. Because the Imperium needs servitors. It can't function without them. And the only way to make enough servitors is to convert people. The widow spoke again. Her name was Hessa. Her husband had been taken 6 months ago. Shed filed 3 inquiries trying to find out what happened to him. All denied. My husband worked 30 years in the factorums, she said. Her voice was rough, like she'd been crying recently. 30 years. No complaints. No crimes. Perfect record. Then he got sick. Some kind of respiratory thing. The air down in sublevel 8 is bad, everyone knows it. He couldn't lift anymore. Couldn't meet his quota for 2 months. She stopped, swallowed. They took him. The old man nodded slowly. I'm sorry. Why? She asked, and there was anger in her voice now. Why not just let him rest? Retire him? We could have survived on my rations. We didn't have children. We could have managed. The old man met her eyes. Because retirement is waste, he said quietly. A retired worker consumes resources but produces nothing. He eats, drinks water, takes up space in a hab unit that could house a productive worker. From the Imperium's perspective, that's inefficiency. That's a drain on resources. He paused. But if you servitorize him, he becomes productive again. His lungs might be damaged, but his arms still work. His legs still work. His brain can still process simple commands. He can still lift, maybe not as much as he used to, maybe only 40 kilograms instead of 90, but that's still useful. His body still has value. He leaned forward. His life doesn't matter. His body does. The widow looked down at her hands. The Imperium, the old man continued, doesn't see people as individuals. It doesn't see hopes, dreams, relationships, suffering. It sees resources, units, input and output. Your value is determined by your production. When you can't produce anymore, when you're sick, injured, old, or just unlucky, you don't retire. You're converted into something that can still produce. He gestured to the window, to the factorum lights beyond. Your husband is probably still out there. Still working. Still lifting things, loading things, moving things. He just doesn't know it anymore. Doesn't know you. Doesn't know himself. His body serves the Emperor. That's all that matters. One of the servitor technicians leaned forward. His name was Kroll. Had been doing this work for 12 years. He had the haunted look of someone who'd seen too much. I've seen the calculations, he said quietly. We run them every quarter. The administratum requires it. We compare the cost of maintaining a human worker versus converting them into a servitor. And? Someone asked. Kroll rubbed his face. A servitor becomes more cost-effective than a human worker after approximately 3 years of service. Sometimes less, depending on the work environment and the human's health. A human needs 1,460 liters of water per year. Approximately 400 kilograms of rations. Medical care averaging 50 thrones annually. Rest period infrastructure, bunks, rest chambers, sanitation. Oversight, you need supervisors, enforcers, morale officers. He ticked them off on his fingers that a servitor needs electricity. Approximately 8 kilowatts per day for a standard labor unit. Oil and lubricants, maybe 10 liters per year. Replacement parts as needed. Budget 20 thrones annually for a well-maintained unit. Diagnostic scans, twice yearly, 5 thrones each. No food. No water. No rest infrastructure. No morale concerns. He looked around the room. One tech priest or senior tech adept can oversee 200 servitors. You'd need at least 50 supervisors, enforcers, and support staff for 200 human workers. The math is simple. Servitors are cheaper. The old man nodded. Exactly. And that's why the Imperium prefers servitors whenever possible. Not because they're better workers, they're not. A skilled human is faster, smarter, more adaptable. A human can improvise, can solve unexpected problems, can handle complex tasks. But a servitor is cheaper. And in an Imperium stretched across 1 million worlds, fighting on 10,000 fronts, drowning in bureaucracy and decay, cheap is what matters. He stood up, walked to the window. The Imperium can make as many servitors as it needs, because it has an unlimited supply of people. And every person in this room is one mistake away from conversion. He turned back. One accident. One crime. 1 month where you can't work. One random selection for genetic screening. One failed loyalty test. The system is designed to funnel people into servitorization. Because the Imperium needs bodies more than it needs you. How do they decide? The girl asked. Her voice was small, frightened. Who becomes a servitor? The old man sighed. Had been asked this question before. Had never found a good answer. Depends on the world. Depends on the authorities. Depends on quotas. There are general guidelines. The Adeptus Astartes has standard protocols. The Mechanicus has requisition procedures. But every world interprets them differently. He sat back down. Criminals, obviously. Anyone convicted of a crime. Doesn't matter how serious. Theft, assault, murder, heresy, all servitorization candidates. On some worlds, even minor infractions qualify. I knew a man who was servitorized for repeated tardiness. 43 late shifts in 1 year. That was enough. Heretics, he continued. Anyone who speaks against the Emperor, questions the Imperial creed, shows signs of mutation or corruption. Psychers who fail their sanctioning trials. People who've been exposed to chaos taint, but aren't corrupted enough to execute immediately. They get servitorized instead. The conversion process purges most taint, or so the Mechanicus claims. The clerk was still taking notes. The sick, the old man said. The injured. People who can't work anymore, but whose bodies are still functional. Respiratory disease, like Hess's husband. Joint degradation. Chronic pain. If you can't meet quota, you're flagged. 3 months of substandard performance triggers a review. The review usually ends in conversion. The mentally ill, he added quietly. People with cognitive impairments, psychological breaks, severe depression. The Imperium doesn't have mental health facilities. It has conversion facilities. People born with defects, he said, looking at the children. Genetic abnormalities. Physical deformities. Anything that makes you unable to work standard jobs. Some are killed at birth. Some are taken by the Mechanicus for conversion. A child with no legs can still be useful. You don't need legs to be a cogitator interface servitor. One of the boys looked like he might be sick. On some worlds, the old man continued, orphans are automatically converted if the Schola Progenium doesn't take them. The Schola is selective. It only takes the strongest, the most faithful, the most promising. The rest? Conversion facilities. On naval vessels, crew who fail psychological evaluations. Soldiers who desert. Workers who cause accidents. The criteria are broad because the need is constant. On penal worlds, entire prison populations. I have the numbers here. He gestured to his slate. Vorsk penal colony processed 90,000 inmates over 3 years. All servitorized. It's more efficient than maintaining a prison. So there's no real rule, the clerk said. No protection. The rule is simple, the old man replied. If you're more useful as a servitor than as a person, you get converted. And the definition of useful is very, very flexible. He paused. The administratum has quotas. Every world has to provide a certain number of servitors per year. Sometimes the quotas are based on population. Sometimes they're based on need. A crusade starts, the Navy needs gunloader servitors, quotas increase. When quotas go up, the criteria for conversion get broader. Suddenly minor crimes qualify. Suddenly one failed loyalty test is enough. Suddenly orphans who might have been placed in workhouses get sent to conversion facilities instead. So they just grab people? One of the workers asked. To meet quotas? Not randomly, the old man said. There's always a justification. Always paperwork. Always a reason. But when you need 50,000 servitors and you've only converted 30,000, you find reasons. You audit more carefully. You enforce more strictly. You lower the threshold for what counts as a crime or a deficiency. He looked around the room, and nobody complains. Because the people being taken are criminals, heretics, the sick, the broken. They're already considered worthless. And the people who aren't taken yet, they're just relieved it wasn't them. They keep their heads down. They work harder. They try not to get noticed. He stood. That's how the system perpetuates itself. Through fear. Through acceptance. Through the constant knowledge that anyone could be next. The man missing his arm spoke up. His name was Davin. Had lost the arm in an industrial accident 3 years ago. Had been lucky, they'd ruled it wasn't his fault, so had been reassigned to lighter duty instead of being servitorized. But he knew how close it had been. Do they feel it? He asked. His voice was hoarse, like he didn't speak often. When they're converted. The old man hesitated. This was always the hardest part. During the procedure? Yes. Most facilities use anesthetics, but not always. Pain management is optional. Some tech priests believe pain is part of the purification process. That suffering burns away the old self, makes the transition to servitude more complete. Others just don't care. Anesthetics cost money, take time. Easier to just strap them down and start cutting. The room was very quiet. I've heard the screaming, Kroll said suddenly. I work in Facility 12. The walls are thick, but sometimes you hear it. High-pitched. Doesn't sound human after a while. The old man nodded slowly. And after? Davin pressed. After the conversion? Do they know what happened? It depends, the old man said. Every conversion is different. The goal is to remove or suppress higher brain functions. Memory, personality, self-awareness, emotion. What's left is just enough neural activity to process commands, to perform motor functions, to handle basic problem-solving if the task requires it. He walked back to the center of the room. A Class 1 servitor. Those are the simplest, the ones that just stand in one place and push a button or pull a lever. Those have almost nothing left. The brain is mostly gone. Just the brainstem and basic motor cortex. They're biological robots. Class 4 servitors, labor units, cargo loaders, they need more. They need to be able to navigate spaces, to recognize objects, to understand simple commands. Move this crate to that location. Stack these boxes. Load that pallet. So more of the brain is preserved. Speech centers are usually removed, but sometimes they're left in. Some servitors can repeat basic phrases, confirmation responses. Acknowledged. Compliance. Task complete. The widow, Hessa, was crying silently. But the conversion isn't always clean, the old man continued. The brain is complex. You can't just cut away the parts you don't want and expect everything else to work perfectly. Sometimes the memory centers aren't fully suppressed. Sometimes the personality remains, buried, locked away, but still there, still aware. I've heard stories, he said quietly, of servitors that cry, that twitch violently when they see someone they used to know, that try to speak but can't because their vocal cords were removed or their speech centers were damaged. Servitors that hurt themselves, banging their heads against walls, clawing at their augmetics, trying to dig the implants out. Kroll was nodding. I've seen it, he said. Twice. Both times we filed reports. Both times the Mechanicus said it was just neural misfires. Residual electrical activity. Not real consciousness. Not real suffering. Do you believe that? The clerk asked. Kroll didn't answer. The old man did. No, he said. I don't believe that. I think some of them are still in there. Still aware. Still screaming inside a body they can't control, doing tasks they can't refuse, unable to speak or move or do anything except obey. He sat down heavily. I think that might be worse than death. The old man stood again. He seemed unable to sit still when talking about this. He walked to the window and looked out at the factorum, at the lights burning through the smog. There are servitors out there right now, he said quietly, who used to live in this hablock, who used to sit in this room, who used to work the same jobs you work. I knew some of them, talked to them, shared rations with them during the lean months. He didn't turn around. One was a woman named Kella. Young, maybe 25. She worked on Assembly Line 14 Gamma. She had a son, 6 years old. Beautiful child. Always smiling. Always asking questions. One day, Kella stole a piece of bread from the factorum canteen. Just one piece. She wanted to feed her son. His rations had been cut because Head missed 3 days of junior work detail when he was sick. His voice was flat, but there was pain underneath. She got caught. They ran the DNA scan on the breadcrumbs, matched them to her saliva. Flagged for theft. Servitorized within a week. He paused. I saw her 2 years later. She was a waste reclamation unit. Lowest tier work. She carried bags of refuse from the lower factorum levels to the incinerators. Each bag weighed 60 kilograms. She carried 20 bags per hour. 20 hours a day. No rest. No breaks. Just walking the same route over and over. He finally turned back to face them. She walked past me once. I was doing an inspection, checking worker efficiency ratings. She was 10 meters away. I saw her face, what was left of it. Half of it was covered by a metal plate. Her eyes were still there, still human but empty. Like looking into a window with no one home. He swallowed. She looked right at me. Right at me. And there was nothing. No recognition. No awareness. Nothing. Hessa was shaking. Her son, the old man continued, was sent to Workhouse 7. He died there 18 months later. 8 years old. Malnutrition and pneumonia. No one told Kella. Not that she would have understood. Not that she could have done anything. Someone in the back was crying softly now. There was a man named Orvis, the old man said. Good man. Friendly. Always helped people with their quotas when they fell behind. If someone was sick, if someone was struggling, Orvis would work extra to cover for them. He did that for years. Then he got sick. Some kind of lung infection. Couldn't work for 2 weeks. When he came back, he was weaker. Slower. His quota performance dropped 15%. Then 20%. He tried. He really tried. But his lungs wouldn't heal properly. You don't heal well when you're malnourished and breathing toxic air 16 hours a day. The old man's hands were clenched. He got flagged. Medical review determined he was no longer fit for standard labor, but still had functional musculature. Servitorized. I saw him 6 months later. He was a loader unit in sublevel 6. Moving crates. The same crates he used to move when he was human. The same job. Except now he does it for 20 hours a day. For years. Probably still doing it now. He looked at each person in the room. Multiply that by billions, he said. Every world. Every station. Every ship. Billions of people who were converted. Billions of bodies still working. Still serving. And most of them, don't even know they're doing it. Don't remember who they were. Don't remember their names, their families, their lives. But some do, he added quietly. Some remember. Some are still aware. And they can't scream. Can't cry. Can't beg for it to stop. They just work. Forever. The Munitorum clerk cleared his throat. His name was Pelion. Had been working in the administratum for 15 years, processing the same forms, filing the same reports, watching the same numbers grow year after year. Couldn't the Imperium just build better machines? He asked. Invest in proper automation? The technology exists. We had it in the Dark Age. If we just invested resources, if we prioritized it. The old man shook his head before he even finished. The Dark Age of technology had thinking machines. True artificial intelligence. Machines that could think, reason, make decisions, improve themselves. And it almost destroyed humanity. That's why AI is forbidden now. That's why even the hint of machine intelligence is considered tech heresy of the worst kind. He sat down. The Mechanicus will never allow true AI, Neve. It's written into their most fundamental doctrine. The cult Mechanicus sees thinking machines as abominations, as threats to humanity's survival. And they're not entirely wrong. We have records, fragments, of what happened when the machines turned against us. It was apocalyptic, but simpler machines, Pelion started. Cost too much, the old man interrupted. Take too long to build. Require knowledge most worlds don't have. The Mechanicus controls all advanced technology, and they guard it jealously. They don't share. They don't teach. Most forge worlds can build basic machinery, but anything complex requires rare materials, specialized forges, tech priests with specific knowledge that might exist on only a dozen worlds in the entire Imperium. He gestured around. This world, Vorsak Tertius, produces lasgun power packs, shell casings, basic components. We don't have the knowledge or resources to build advanced automation. We have what we have, and what we have is people. Even if you could build the machines, he continued, you'd still need people to oversee them, to maintain them, to make decisions. Machines can't think, so you need humans. And if you need humans anyway, why not just use humans? Why spend 1,000,000 thrones on a machine when you can convert a person for 340? He pulled out his slate again. I calculated it once. If the Imperium wanted to replace every servitor in the segmentum solar with equivalent automation, it would cost approximately 178 trillion thrones. That's trillion with AT. And that's just one segmentum. There are 5 segmentums, plus outlying regions. He put the slate away. The Imperium doesn't have that kind of resources. It's fighting wars on every front. It's maintaining a billion-strong bureaucracy. It's feeding quadrillions of people. It's barely holding together. It can't afford a 178 trillion throne investment in automation. But it can afford servitors, Kroll said quietly, because servitors are cheap. Because the raw material is free. Because people are everywhere. Exactly, the old man said. Servitors are the solution the Imperium chose 10,000 years ago. And it works. Not because it's humane. Not because it's right. Not because it's the best solution. But because it's efficient enough. Because it keeps the Imperium functioning. Because it turns a problem, what do you do with criminals, with the sick, with the surplus population, into a solution? He looked tired suddenly. Old. The Imperium doesn't care about individual suffering. It can't afford to. It's a machine, a vast, incomprehensible machine spanning 1,000,000 worlds. And like any machine, it needs fuel. It needs parts. It needs maintenance. He met their eyes. We're the fuel. We're the parts. We're what gets consumed to keep the machine running. So it will never change, Hesse said. It wasn't a question. No, the old man agreed. It won't change. The Imperium has existed for 10,000 years. This is how it's always worked. This is how it will keep working until the Imperium falls. And the Imperium won't fall. It can't. Because if the Imperium falls, humanity falls. We have nowhere else to go. No other protection. Just the Imperium. He stood. So we accept it. We live with it. We become part of it. One way or another. One of the workers spoke up. A young man, maybe 22, with burned scars on his hands from a chemical spill. His name was Jarek. What if we refuse? He asked. There was heat in his voice. Anger. What if we fight back? What if we organize, resist, stop cooperating with the system? They can't convert everyone. If enough people refused. The old man looked at him. There was something sad in his expression. Then you die, he said simply. Or worse, you get servitorized anyway. The Imperium doesn't negotiate. Doesn't compromise. Doesn't care about your resistance. He walked toward Jarek. You want to fight? Where? How? You're surrounded by enforcers. By overseers, by surveillance systems that track your every movement. You want to organize? Everyone you talk to is a potential informant. Everyone needs their rations. Everyone has someone they're trying to protect. Turn on the system, and someone will turn on you. But if enough people, there will never be enough people, the old man said. Because the Imperium is very good at preventing organization. It keeps us isolated. It keeps us competing with each other for rations, for better shifts, for slightly less terrible conditions. It makes us afraid. It makes examples of anyone who resists. He gestured to the window. You see those lights? That's Enforcement Station 7. You know what's in there right now? 15 people who were caught planning a work stoppage. They wanted better rations. They wanted medical care for injured workers. They wanted 1 day off per month. He paused. All 15 were servitorized yesterday. By tomorrow, they'll be working the same jobs they were. Protesting. Except now they won't complain. Won't organize. Won't think at all. Jarek looked away. You can't fight a system this large, the old man said quietly. You can't hide from it. You can't escape it. It's everywhere. It controls everything. Your water. Your food. Your air. Your life. So we just accept it? Jarek's voice was bitter. You survive, the old man said. You follow the rules as best you can. You meet your quotas. You don't make mistakes. You don't get sick if you can help it. You don't get noticed. You keep your head down. You endure. And you hope, he added softly, that when your time comes, and it will come for most of us, you hope it's quick. You hope they do a clean conversion. You hope you don't stay aware. You hope there's nothing left of you to suffer. The room was silent. I know it's not fair, the old man said. I know it's cruel. I know it's wrong. But the Imperium doesn't care about fair. It doesn't care about individual suffering. It cares about function, about efficiency, about survival. He sat down. And right now, the function that matters most is turning people into tools. Because the Imperium needs tools more than it needs people. It needs bodies more than it needs lives. The girl raised her hand again. She looked frightened but determined. Will it always be like this? She asked. Forever? The old man didn't answer right away. He looked at her, really looked at her. 10 years old. Her whole life ahead of her. Her whole life of quotas and rations and the constant threat of conversion. I don't know, he said finally. Maybe. Probably. The Imperium has existed for 10,000 years. This is how it's always worked. I don't see it changing. Not in my lifetime. Not in yours. But what if she started? What if what? The old man interrupted, but gently. What if the Emperor returned? What if he walked among us again, saw what the Imperium had become, and changed it? What if someone invented a new technology that made servitors unnecessary? What if we found a better way? He shook his head. Those are dreams. Nice dreams. Beautiful dreams. But the Imperium doesn't run on dreams. It runs on blood and metal and bodies. It runs on suffering and efficiency, and the grinding logic of survival. He stood and walked to her. As long as the Imperium needs to survive, and it does need to survive, because without it we have nothing, we are nothing. As long as it needs to survive, it will keep doing what works. And servitorization works. It's efficient. It's cheap. It solves problems. It turns waste into value. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. I wish I could tell you it will get better. I wish I could tell you that you'll be safe, that you'll live a long life and die in your sleep, surrounded by family. But I can't, because it probably won't happen that way. Statistically, you'll probably be servitorized before you're 40. Most people are. She was crying now. But you might not be, he said quietly. You might be lucky. You might avoid it. You might die in an accident. You might get selected for off-world service. You might. I don't know. Something might change. It's not impossible. He stood. Just don't expect it. Don't count on it. Don't let hope make you careless. The old man looked around the room one last time. At all the faces watching him. Young and old. Scared and resigned. Angry and broken. The truth, he said, is simple. Your life, your thoughts, your feelings, your hopes, your loves, those don't matter to the Imperium. They never have. They never will. What matters is your body. What it can do. What it can be made to do. What it can produce before it breaks, and what it can still produce after. He walked to the door. You are not a person to the Imperium. You're a unit. A number. A potential servitor. A future component in a machine that will never stop running. The Imperium will use you while you're useful. And when you're not useful anymore, it will convert you into something that is. He put his hand on the door handle. Some of you will die before you are converted. Some of you will be lucky enough to die in ways that make your bodies unrecoverable. Some of you might even live long enough to retire, though I've never met anyone who actually did. He paused. But most of you, statistically most of you, will end up in a conversion facility. Most of you will become servitors. And when that happens, you won't remember this conversation. Won't remember your name. Won't remember being human. You'll just work. Forever. Or until you break. He opened the door. The corridor beyond was dark, lit only by flickering lumen strips. The Imperium needs your body more than your life. It needs what you can become more than what you are. And it will take it, one way or another. Through crime. Through illness. Through accident. Through quotas. Through the simple mathematics of efficiency. He stepped into the corridor. It will take you. And it will use you. Every last piece. Behind him, the room sat in silence. Someone was sobbing. Someone else was praying quietly. Jarek was staring at his scarred hands. Hessa was holding herself, rocking slightly. The children looked terrified. The old man walked away. His footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. He didn't look back. 3 months later, Jarek was caught stealing copper wire from a broken assembly machine. Had planned to sell it on the black market for extra rations. His mother was sick. The medical depot had denied her treatment. He needed money for gray market antibiotics. He was flagged for resource theft. Servitorized. Unit 12 BXK 9847. Assigned to electrical maintenance in sublevel 9. His function: replace damaged wiring, repair junction boxes, check voltage levels. 20 hours per day. Every day. He worked there for 7 years without incident. Then a power surge killed him. Electrical current stopped his heart, fried his neural implants. He collapsed in Corridor 9 Theta, still holding a length of copper wire. A reclamation team collected him 8 hours later. His augmetics were recovered, 92% salvageable. His biomass was rendered into protein paste, 31 kilograms of usable material. His neural implants were cleaned, tested, and stored for the next conversion. The old man filed the report. Form 447 Gamma. Servitor Unit Termination and Resource Recovery. Head filed 4,247 similar reports that year. He would file 4,389 more the next year. And the year after that, and the year after that. Hessa lasted another year. She couldn't meet her quotas after her husband was taken. She was too sad, too tired, too hopeless. She failed efficiency reviews 3 months in a row. Flagged for insufficient productivity. Servitorized. Unit 12, BXK 9903. Assigned to waste reclamation. The same job her husband might have been doing, though they would never know, would never see each other, would never remember. She carried bags of refuse to the incinerators. 60 kilograms per bag. 20 bags per hour. 20 hours per day. She worked for 9 years. Then she fell down an access shaft. A safety rail had corroded, given way under her weight. She fell 30 meters. Her body was too damaged to repair. Augmetics recovered. Biomass rendered. Neural implants reused. Another report filed. The girl, her name had been Messa, lasted until she was 16. She had been assigned to textile production when she turned 12. Stitching uniform linings for the Imperial Guard. Fine, detailed work. 12-hour shifts in poorly lit chambers. Her eyesight started failing at 15. Too many hours in dim light, too much close work, too little nutrition. She couldn't see the stitching anymore. Her error rate climbed. 3%, 5%, 8%. At 10%, she was flagged. Medical review. Optical degradation non-correctable. Unsuitable for detailed work. Body otherwise functional. Servitorized. Unit 12 BXK 10447. Assigned to chemical processing. You don't need good eyes to pour solutions from tank, to load hoppers, to carry materials. She worked there for 11 years. A chemical spill dissolved her respiratory system. She suffocated over the course of 3 hours. No one noticed until the shift ended, and she didn't return to her charging alcove. Augmetics recovered. Biomass rendered. Neural implants reused. Report filed. On Vorsak Tertius, the factorums continued to run. Shift after shift. Day after day. Year after year. The servitors continued to work. Moving through corridors. Lifting crates. Welding joints. Monitoring gauges. Following commands. Never stopping. Never questioning. Never remembering. In Conversion Facility 12, 3 new subjects were processed. A woman who had failed a loyalty test. She had expressed doubt about the Emperor's divinity during a routine interview. Just once. Just one sentence. A man who couldn't work anymore. Severe arthritis. Hands too damaged for assembly work. But his back was strong. His legs worked. Still useful. A child who had been born with cognitive delays. Couldn't learn. Couldn't read. Couldn't handle complex tasks. But could follow simple commands. Could still serve. They were stripped. Scanned. Measured. Evaluated. By morning, they were Unit 12 BXK 11198, Unit 12 BXK 11199, and Unit 12 BXK 11200. By evening, they were working. They did not remember their names. They did not remember their lives. They did not remember being human. They lifted. They carried. They moved. They processed. They served. The system functioned as designed. The quotas were met. No errors were logged. The Imperium continued. Across 1,000,000 worlds, in 10,000 facilities, billions of servitors worked through the endless night. And billions more waited to join them. The old man sat in his office in Administratum Block 7, filing reports. Form after form after form. Numbers that had once been people. People who were now just units. He would do this until he couldn't anymore. And then someone would file a report about him. And the cycle would continue. Forever. Or until the Imperium fell. And the Imperium would not fall. Could not fall. So forever. The machinery hummed. The lights burned. The production continued.